we use illustrations, it helps people to understand. So let's have a look at the physiology. And this is how I would explain to a client what is going on in their body. And I use cavemen because our stress response is in the reptilian part of our brain. It really does date back to when we were cavemen. So if we look at Fred in the first illustration, he's eating some half-raw chicken, but his stressometer is quite low. Life is wonderful. In the next moment, the lion appears. His body instantaneously changes function. So what I explain to the client is the body releases a whole host of hormones. You can mention adrenaline because most people understand what that is. And those hormones change the body function instantly and dramatically. So the first thing that happens is the heart starts beating out of their chest. Their breathing rate will increase rapidly. Their palms will get sweaty. There will be blood to the extremities so that Fred can fight or flight and survive the lion. Now, when you're explaining this to your client, you will see the recognition in their eyes as you explain this, particularly for panic attack sufferers, because this is exactly what happens during a panic attack. It's exactly the same reaction that the body makes. So in this instance, Fred is very lucky. He runs away and he escapes. Now, what we also have to look at is, while the body is focusing on all of that, how does this stress response affect the rest of the body at the same time? Because what happens is the body prioritizes the essential functions for survival, and if you like, it kind of downgrades the other systems. It takes them off the priority list. Again, it's really important we make this practical for the client. So the first thing we talk about is digestion. And most sufferers of long-term stress have indigestion, heartburn, peptic ulcers, irritable bowel, and so on. Because Fred's body in this instance says the lunch does not matter. If the lion eats him, the lunch will be the lion's problem. So the focus on digestion is dramatically reduced. Insomnia, absolutely another side effect. And to explain this to the client, what I would say is, Fred's body does not want him to go into a deep sleep, because if he goes into a deep sleep, he will not hear the danger. He won't hear the lion. This is why the body keeps him partially alert and he can no longer go into a deep sleep. The third part that gets affected is memory recall. And why does Fred's body do that? Because he needs to be fully alert, fully present, right here, right now, to observe everything that lion is doing in order to best survive. So he does not need to remember what he learned last week and so on. Again, make it practical for the client. So I would always ask them, have you noticed that when you get very anxious or very fearful or very stressed, you can't remember your partner's number? And again, now they're clicking into it. They're understanding that they are not faulty, that this is actually a physiological response. Of course, reproduction is affected because Fred's body decides, well, he may not live long enough to reproduce, so that really doesn't matter. So then you have issues of infertility, menstrual cycle issues, libido issues, and so on. And immunity is one that people really don't think about. I've found the general public really don't recognize this. But I ask the question, when you go on your holidays at Christmas or your annual vacation or whatever, do you get sick? 99.9% of my clients all say yes, they do. So then I explain why. Because when Fred is in fight or flight mode, his body downgrades his immune system and it masks what's going on in the body because it's not essential. So when the clients go on holidays, 2 or 3 days into the holiday, as the stress response starts to reduce, lo and behold, they get sick. The sickness was already in them, but the body wasn't focusing on it as a maintenance. By the time you've gone through this with the client, you will see that they are visibly relaxing in front of you because now we've taken the mystique out of it and the mystery out of it, and they're beginning to get a sense that actually they're not faulty and they're not imagining it. So what should happen then? We do need to explain what should happen. And actually, the reason I use illustrations is because of that memory function that's dramatically reduced in stress. Because what you'll find is reading text for somebody who's stressed is very difficult, because they read the first paragraph, but by the time they get to the second paragraph, they can't remember what they read in the first paragraph. So writing a book on stress aimed at people who are stressed is a rather difficult thing for them to do. Illustrations work much better. So if we look to nature, we'll always see, obviously, what's natural. So we look at the cat, totally relaxed, no stress. The doggy appears. So the cat's body immediately goes into fight or flight. The heart is beating, he's breathing faster, there's more blood to his paws, etc. And he's a very lucky cat, he gets away. And what does he do when he has escaped the dog? Well, he goes back licking his paws again and switches off his stress response. Now, what do we do? Well, the first thing I do is I ring my best friend and tell her about the trauma and about how the dog nearly got me. What if I'm not so fast the next time, and what if there's more of them? And so on. So I do not switch off the stress response. And chronic stress is the jamming on of this response. I liken it often with clients to like a trip switch in the fuse board. You know, it's supposed to come on when we need it and switch off when the danger has passed. But for most people, and it really, I do believe, is a global epidemic, this trip switch is stuck on.